हे गाइज, वेलकम बॅक टू द चॅनल ऑफ आयुर्वेदा मराठी. तर बरेच दिवस झालेत आपण एकही व्हिडिओ कन्सिडर केलेला नाही आहे. तर आज आपण ह्या व्हिडिओमध्ये एक नवीन टॉपिक शिकणार आहोत. तोच म्हणजे टिपिकल सर्वायकल वर्टिब्रे. आपण आतापर्यंत C1 आणि C2 हा डिटेलमध्ये एक ॲपमध्ये बघितलेला आहे. त्याच्यात मी तुम्हाला डिटेल नोट्स पण प्रोव्हाइड केलेले आहेत आणि त्यावर रिलेटेड व्हिडिओसुद्धा आहे. बट आपण युजली टिपिकल वर्टिब्राज स्किप करतो आणि त्यामुळे आपल्याला एक्झाममध्ये खूप त्रास होतो. जर आपल्याला टिपिकल सर्वायकल वर्टिब्री किंवा टिपिकल लंबार वर्टिब्री किंवा टिपिकल थोरासिक वर्टिब्रीच्या बाबतीत थोडाही नॉलेज असेल तर त्यावरून आपण स्पेसिफिक फीचर्स लर्न करायला खूप सोपं जाऊ शकतात. तर म्हणून आजच्या या व्हिडिओमध्ये आपण टिपिकल सर्वायकल वर्टिब्री हे घेणार आहोत. आता टिपिकल सर्वायकल वर्टिब्री कन्सिडर करताना आपल्याला 3 मेन पॉईंट्स बघायचे आहेत. द फर्स्ट इज वर्टिब्रल आर्च, द सेकंड इज वर्टिब्रल फोरामेन अँड द थर्ड इज द वर्टिब्रल बॉडी. पण सगळ्यात मोठा प्रश्न पडतो की तुम्ही सर्वायकल वर्टिब्रेला लंबार वर्टिब्री आणि थोरॅसिक वर्टिब्रीपासून डिफरन्शिएट कसं करणार? सो इट इज व्हेरी सिम्पल. फ्रॉम द प्रेझन्स ऑफ द फोरामिना transversum. Foramina transversum. This is the presence of a small foramen that on the transverse process of the typical cervical vertebrae. Thus, cervical vertebrae can be differentiated from the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae by the presence of foramina transversarium. Okay? So आता आपण आपला फर्स्ट टॉपिक घेऊया, दॅट इज द वर्टेब्रल बॉडी. दीज आर नथिंग बट स्मॉल ओव्हल इन शेप. ओके, इट has two surfaces, that is the superior surface and the inferior surface. The superior surface is concave from side to side, okay, to side, and maybe concave from before backwards as well. The important features to remember is the superior and the inferior surface. लास्टला मी तुम्हाला डायग्रामच्या हेल्पने सुद्धा हे एक्सप्लेन करणार आहे, बट जस्ट बिकॉज द बेसिक तुम्हाला माहिती असली पाहिजे म्हणून आपण आधी थिअरी बघूया. ओके, त्यानंतर आपण बघणार आहोत वर्टिब्रल फोरामेन. Now, the vertebral foramen. The vertebral foramen is always larger than the body, which is very very important to remember. It's nothing. Suppose for example ही तुमची body असली, so the foramen should always be larger. So this will be the foramen and this is your body. Okay, always remember that. And then in case of cervical vertebrae, it is majorly triangular in shape. Two important points to remember in vertebral foramen. Okay, the last topic here we have to study is the vertebral arch. So the next topic here we have to study is the vertebral arch, that is further divided into 5 subpoints, that is the pedicels, the lamina, the superior and inferior articular processes, the transverse process, as well as the spine. So we have to study the 5 points in the vertebral arch. Firstly, we'll start with the pedicels. Pedicels are long and directed backwards and laterally. Superior and inferior vertebral notches are equal in size. Now while studying the diagram I will show you what exactly the pedicels mean, but these, just remember, these are long and directed backwards and laterally. I'll also show you a diagram in the last, so you will get to know that. Next is the lamina. Just like the pedicels, the lamina is also long and narrow. Lastly, we have the superior and inferior articular surfaces and processes, we can say. Okay, so the superior and inferior articular processes are supposed to be at the junction of the pedicels and the lamina. The pedicels and lamina the concept will be cleared when I'll show you the diagram. Okay, so these are found at the junctions of the pedicel and lamina. Now the superior articular facets are directed backwards and upwards, and those are flat. Same as the inferior articular facets, those are also flat, but they are directed forwards and downwards. Okay, Now, since we are studying it in a little bit more detail, so I'll tell you about the transverse process first. The transverse process are pierced by the foramina transversarium that I have told you in the introduction, as it is the special features of the cervical vertebra. Okay, each process has anterior and posterior roots which end in the tubercles joined by the costa transverse bar at the intertubercular bar. Now, what is the intertubercular bar? What is the anterior tubercle and posterior tubercle? All will be explained in a diagram just after this topic. Okay, lastly we have the spine, and spine, it is short and bifid. Now, what you mean by bifid? Which means it has two mouths. त्याला दोन तोंड असतात. This is nothing but a bifid spine. Okay, not necessarily all are bifid, but maximum of the cervical spines are bifid. Okay, and it is filled up with new ligamentum nuchae. That is all is necessary for you to know. Okay, now I'll show you the diagram and we'll study through it. Okay guys, so this is a very simple diagram of the cervical or the typical cervical vertebrae. By the way, do you all know which of the vertebrae are typical cervical vertebrae and which are atypical? So just so you know, cervical vertebrae C3, C4, C5 and C6 are all typical cervical vertebrae. The remaining one are atypical. Those are C1, C2 and C7. These are the atypical ones. Okay, so we'll start with the diagram. Firstly, this is the body. Entire is the body, and we learned that the foramen should be greater than the body. So this is the foramen. Okay, just listen to the markings, because I'm not able to completely write them off. So I hope you understand. This is the bifid spine, the one I just taught you. Then we have the lamina. So this whole entire structure is known as the lamina. Okay, and this structure joining here is known as the pedicel. So this structure is known as the pedicel and this structure is known as the lamina. As I told you, both are long and narrow. It joins these two structure and this joins the spine, and these will be called as the facet. I will tell you that in the upcoming point. Next we have to see is foramen transversum. That is the classical features of the cervical vertebrae. This is nothing but the foramen transversum. On both the sides we have. Okay, then we have to see the superior articular facets. These are the presence of superior articular facet. That one I have just colored. This is the presence of superior articular facet. Now the inferior ones will be on the back side, so we are not able to see those. Then we have the transverse process. So this is the transverse process on which the foramen transversum is present. So this is nothing but the transverse process. Okay, then we have to study some structures that were not clear while teaching. That was the anterior tubercle, the posterior tubercle and the intertubercular bar, as I told you. So this point is known as the anterior tubercle. Okay, the small one is known as the posterior tubercle and the line joining these is known as the intertubercular bar. I know it's a little complicated structure, so try and understand here. This one will be the anterior tubercle, this one will be the posterior tubercle, and the line or the structure joining these two will be the intertubercular bar. So I have completed the structure. Now from here the nerves will be passing, and one of the root will be passing from the upside and one from the downside. The one going from the up will be called as the anterior root and another will be called as the posterior root. So this is our complete cervical typical vertebra. C1 and C2 I have already taught you. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching the video patiently. Have a nice day ahead. Thank you.